Hi, Jumsy. Give me 1 second. I need to connect my headphones.
Okay. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Yes.
Okay, awesome. I can hear you now too. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining.
Thank you.
I know today is a working session, so it's purely optional, and I know it's right before the U.S. holidays, so it's possible that, we might have a very light crowd today. But just
Okay.
give me a
Okay. It's
second.
your holiday today. Yeah. Okay. I mean, by
Oh,
the
no,
way,
no,
I
no,
am
not
actually
not.
joining from, yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm joining from India, not from US.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so starting tomorrow, not tomorrow, a lot of times for Thanksgiving week,
Okay.
people will take off
Yeah.
the whole week, or sometimes they'll start dropping as the days progress. So either today
Yeah.
or tomorrow, usually people like tomorrow I'm not working, so
Okay.
but today I am. So it just
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah.
It
It's
just kind
Thanksgiving
of,
holidays, right? Yeah.
yes, correct,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we may not have a lot of folks, but that's okay. We could still get some work done, which is why I keep some of these sessions.
Yeah.
Um, because if I don't have dedicated time to work on this, it's probably not going to get done. So at the very least, I can get something done during this 1 hour session.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
um, so um, so I am going to give you so that way you can sign in. If you are able to, and then we can go ahead and get started because again, I'm not expecting a lot of people today, but I did want to start. I did want to start or not
Yeah.
start, but finish the blog as much as we can. Um, so I don't. I'm starting to get my voice back. I was sick last week. My little one got sick, and then she got me sick. So I'm still kind of recuperating. So you'll have to excuse my raspy voice today.
No problem.
Um,
I can easily, make that. No problem. It's
yeah,
still
uh,
not works anyway. So it's
yeah. um, so for today, like I mentioned, I think you were part of not last week's meeting because my little one got sick, but the week before we were able to, start doing the blog and getting it into like a really good position. Um, Now we just have a couple of things, and I know you commented on a couple of things for like prevent,
yeah.
instead of helps instead of prevent helps to prevent. So I did some modifications here and there for that.
Okay.
Uh, and let me see what other comments you had in here. This I put build quality. Would that be sufficient?
Yeah, I think I have, yeah, seen that changes as well. It's for
Okay.
me, it looks good. So the point what I thought was like, when we say about salsa, quality is actually something different from what salsa provides. If we make it secure, we cannot. I mean, quality security is also part of that. We can say when we say quality is there, then security is also in line with that or integrated with that. But it's actually kind of two terms, right? Yeah. So when we say salsa provides build quality, um, so the build quality is also some part coming from the build engine, say the compiler or the build tool, or the machine which we are building. So and also the build steps whatever we configure for that. So when we say
Hmm.
build, it involve multiple stages, and to make that as a quality build, my doubt was like whether salsa support in each stage.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, so total build is fine, but when we say the total build containing say 5 to 7 steps, among that we are only doing some vulnerability analysis, attestation, we are creating provenance information. This is the only step, one among the steps in the build. So when we say the build quality, SLSA is not focused on the entire build quality. Uh, yeah, maybe that's
Wait,
good.
hold on.
Yeah, build
Yeah,
integrity.
let me suggest it because I didn't write this paragraph. So I'm going to put it like this. I'm going to suggest it. Build integrity, quality,
Yeah,
maybe build integrity instead of quality.
yeah, I think that would be better now. Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay. And I think I missed. Hi, Matt. Thank you for joining. Um, are you a new person joining us today? I don't think I've
Um,
seen your last name before.
yeah, I'm new to this positioning meeting, but I attended a couple other salsa related meetings last week.
Okay, well, welcome. Thank you for joining. I was telling Jumsy that I suspect today is going to be a light day for two reasons. One, this is an optional meeting. It's a working session, so that way we can get stuff done. But then also because of the holidays, right? People tend to either have the whole week off or they start dropping off as the day progresses. Um, so yeah, it might just be the three of us. There might be other people, but just wanted to give you that heads up. But thank you for joining. And what brings you here today? Hey, there's Jay.
Yeah, so yeah, happy to be here. And I've just over the last year and a half been moving into the application security space at Dow. And one of the things that I'm accountable for are making sure that we have the right security requirements. And I've just been looking into cyber threats and saw the opportunity to improve security specifically related to the software supply chain, and that led me to SLSA. And then I saw that it was tied to OpenSSF, and thought that'd be an opportunity to at least learn a little bit more behind the scenes on where SLSA's at, what the vision is, and how I can take what I'm learning and apply it at Dow.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah, so for the positioning meeting, we do have actually, I don't know if I've ever, I think I did commit the charter. There should be a charter for the positioning SIG. Essentially, we're trying to evangelize or educate the community on what salsa is, what it isn't. And then if we see deficiencies or things that could be improved upon, we bring it back to the core salsa community for specification as an example. And so what we've been working on is a blog right now to focus on developers, right? And like why they should care about salsa, right? How it helps them.
Okay.
And so that's what we're kind of looking at right now and just trying to finish up that blog. And the link is in the meeting notes, but I will also put it here. Let me find the chat. Chat. This is where the blog is. So feel free to, peruse through, and this isn't a one person thing. It's multiple people that have contributed to this. And we're just trying to finalize it. So what Jamsi was talking about was, this wording of build quality. So I just changed it to build integrity. I didn't write that paragraph, so I'm just going to suggest it for now. Persistent making build process. Oh, I see this one, Jamsi. Yeah, I'll have to edit that one later. And thanks, Jay, for joining. Haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was happening this week, being a short one.
Yeah.
But I guess all work this week is good week. I've been limiting my I've been limiting a lot of my work output this week just because it's a holiday week.
Yeah.
Another
I've
big
gotten.
push next week. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I didn't
I
mean
was
to
going to say
interrupt. Continue.
another big push. I was going to say another big push next week and the week after, and then going into Christmas. But I figured finish up a few things, clear our plates a little bit.
Yeah, that's my goal for today and yesterday. I'm getting to get stuff done that I never have time to do because nobody's bothering me. Right. So it's been a little quieter at work and doing some coding, which I haven't done in a long time. And so it's been a pretty fun, 24 hours and, hoping that we can at least submit something as a PR for a blog. I'm hoping, right? We've been working on this for a while and it's like at the very end. So I think where we need the most help, one is this call to action. It's like very blah. There's nothing in here. So that definitely needs to be beefed up, right? Like, what do we want developers to take away from this? What should they do next? Obviously, there's going to be a part 2, hopefully, but that is a pretty weak one. And then just trying to firm up what kinds of problems it can catch. There was a huge thread with Mark because I was trying to express, like, I shared this picture with him, and then the downloading dependencies triggered a thought of, well, maybe this isn't something that we've actually talked about yet, and we should. And so I need to alter the picture so that it doesn't have the dependencies part, or we can try to see if we can get it in the 1.0 specification. I don't know. So that's something that, Mark was concerned about with the dependencies, but I was trying to get a handle of, what is it preventing, right? What is it catching an error? And so he was kind of going through and explaining it. So I was going to modify this language a little bit to express what he wrote in a different way for the developers. So I don't know if you saw that thread, Jay. It's on the specification. Let me see, and I can tag you all. Are you on OpenSSF's Slack channel, Matt?
Yep, I am.
Okay, is it just Matt? Oh, okay, I see with Matt. Jay.
Yeah, I stepped away for a couple of seconds. What was that I was supposed to see?
Sorry, I just sent you and the rest of the folks on the call. I tagged you in a Slack thread. It went haywire after I I was asking about something very specific, and then it went completely sideways to like some other topic. So I'm just trying to focus on this little bit here. But I did tag you 3. So if you wanted to follow the thread, you could. So just in case. But so I'm trying to understand, like here, prevent a bad compile for being submitted because it's not matching upstream code. One of the things they said, well, Sean Lowry said, well, what's local versus upstream, right? And upstream doesn't mean open source community necessarily. It's just whatever the build system says, hey, you need to go pull code from. That's what I'm considering upstream. Could it be an open source repository? Yes. Could it be internal? Yes. Yeah. For all intents and purposes, is wherever the build system defines that upstream repo. And then for local is anything that's on the user system, right? Whether it's their laptop, it's a personal desktop, it could be a VDI environment in the cloud somewhere, somewhere where it's not what's the word? Somewhere where the developer's working. So I'm not sure if these are clear enough, and if there's any tweaks that you all think I should make to these definitions.
Yeah,
I would
I
say
think
as long as the definitions are consistent across the board, right? So like we're using these definitions, but they're also used not only with respect to SLSA, but respect to the OpenSSF in general.
Yeah, I put for this blog only because I didn't want to
Okay.
open that can of worms, right? Because I know
Gotcha.
I know we're working on that, right? And I don't know how long that's going to take. So that's why I wrote for this blog only. This is what we mean.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I completely agree. If we had those definitions, yes. But I think those are very much in flux, and I don't know when we're going to get those at least preliminary definitions where people are like, yeah, we think this is good. It's just a tweaking of a word or two here or there. I thought I heard someone else speak. Matt, Jamsi, did you have thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I think that particular specific, I mean, specifically we mentioned about what is local and upstream will be good. Will help initial readers to understand what exactly it means.
Okay.
And I agree with Jay, as long as, I mean, consistency is probably more important than the definition in some cases.
Yeah, yeah. I think for this entire blog, which is not very big, it should be consistent across the board, and we'll definitely make sure of that. Jay,
one more
go ahead.
on that diagram. So there we have mentioned about running unit test. So if we are adding running unit test is a kind of best practices to be part of the build. In that case, vulnerability check is also part of that build, right? So we can add more like steps in that build process. So if we are intended only to the core build activity like importing, downloading source code, downloading dependency, and we moved out or add additional steps also like vulnerability analysis. I mean, this is just a thought process. You can also think on that.
Okay.
And
yeah, let me. I'm gonna have to reach out to Jory on editing that this recording. I don't know why that Chrome browser popped up. I have access to this, or rather I created this, so that's a good point. Let me edit it, and then I'll do a new comment. Add.
Can we keep unit test, or can we add vulnerability analysis?
We might as well add all the other things too, like signing. Yeah. Okay, so for these, what do you all think about how SLSA is defined for the draft level 1 and level 2 right now?
I think this. I mean, I think it's a slippery slope. And the reason why I say that is because I looked at the thread, and I've looked at a couple of the sites to see what changes have occurred and where we're at now with a lot of those changes in terms of the spec. We got to tread lightly here because there seems to be changes all the time according to what's feasible right now versus what's still in development, that will end up resulting in what version 1 is going to be.
That's fair.
If that makes sense. And what I'm afraid of from this blog's perspective is we're going to call out something. So we've already found discrepancies, right? That we've sent back and verbalized to the spec team.
Correct.
My fear is that they're still hammering that stuff out, And when we issue the PR, we could be issuing the PR a little premature towards them hammering something out, and we may be highlighting something that might not get, dare I say, we might end up being smarter than a fifth grader on this one.
Got it. So what are your thoughts on, right? Obviously, we can't release this until 1.0 gets released, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if we do it where we're timing it, right? We do submit the PR so that everybody's in agreement. And if something changes before it gets published, we would know because it's dependent on
Right.
SLSA 1.0. And so right before it gets published, then there would be a last review. But at the very least, we've written most of it up and we're able to get through it. And then if something does change, then we can do it right after 1.0 gets published.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I also saw in the beginning we referenced guac. Is that on purpose?
Yeah,
in the beginning?
I did do that because of this chart. I liked this chart. I didn't want to reference it because of guac per se. It was just because it helps give the user a way of visualizing, right? And this was the only place I could find it was Google's blog, right? And so I thought this was a really good diagram, right? It simplifies things. It helps the reader digest where SLSA is in the grand scheme of things. So that's the only reason why I mention it right here, but we don't discuss it further.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So if there's another picture that helps, by all means, I'm all ears. I think this was the best one that I found at the time because I think it was Sean shared it with us like 3 meetings ago or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good diagram. Any other questions or concerns about that one? Okay. This, so for Matt may not, since he wasn't part of these meetings before. So this is what problems it can catch, right? So at a high level, helping to prevent misconfiguration, local modifications, and data processing errors. Somebody also said reduce time to release, debug, and determine root cause, and then improve transparency in building a secure software supply chain. So this one, I don't remember who mentioned it. It could have been Laura, it could have been somebody else, right? Talk to the developer about reducing their time at work, right? Do they have to stay late at work? If their code gets, not approved right before production push, that's going to cause them to stay later, right? And so it reduces that risk of that happening and them having to stay later. So I don't know quite how to word this. So this is another area that I think I need help on to try to get into that mindset of you really want to sell this as if you want to reduce your time at work kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm curious to how that parallel was drawn given the current during the current levels at 1 and 2, levels 1 and 2. I'm curious to see how they did there.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go back to the recordings, but I think it's related to this, right? If you put something in the build that you're not supposed to, and it gets caught right before production, right? It's going to delay everything. Same thing for vulnerability. If they find a vulnerability or a package that wasn't approved for legal review or for use, blah, 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 it's going to get, right? So these were the reasons, right? Gating near production, security issues, security design against policy. So there could be something that you're doing that they're like, no way, we would never do this.
Yeah, but how does that reduce time to release? I'm curious about that. Like I've seen that hold up.
I can add one point, Jay, here. I remember on that discussion, he was actually particularly telling about the security team's approval before the release. It's not the general approval. I think it's a security team's approval. So usually just before production, we're waiting for the security team. But if we put this salsas into or on the pipeline, so this attestation will happen in advance or in an automated way, so that then we don't need that manual approval that may help to speed up our release.
Okay, I see where you're going. So this would be this would be so that needs to be mentioned, right? The automated nature of this needs to be mentioned, right? So tooling required needs to be mentioned. And I think for the purpose of the blog, and so just for transparency, if we're going to say that, we need to mention the tools that would be used for it. If they exist.
Yeah, we can say at least for 1 and 2, even we can say Google Cloud Build. Even I also read GitLab also supporting that. So we can mention maybe as some list of tools which supports Salsa level 2 standard build. Yeah, that will also help.
Yeah.
But should tooling, because that's detail, right? And I think that detail would be in how would they implement, and maybe that's part of that.
Yeah, there we can choose, we can give the options like use DevOps orchestrator such as Cloud Build or GitLab or GitHub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can absolutely point to like part 2 and say further detail that's to be mentioned in part 2. But what, like I said, once again, on the side of the caution, let's make sure that it is, in fact, there is tooling and that has been discussed before we mention it here, because there'll be a part 2, and the part 2 doesn't corroborate what we talk about in part 1 at the time of part 2's release. You know what I mean? We're going to lose the audience.
So in that case, we can just mention something called automated process of releases. Incorporating Salsa will helps to reduce time to release, debug, and data code.
Okay, here, I'm gonna save this comment first. And then in here, I'm gonna say automated process. And I lost what you said. Or build release.
Yeah, with Salsa integrated build release. So that's what our aim, right? So
what's also, would it be Salsa requirements integrated?
Salsa requirements integrated. Or in other way around, automated process of build and release with Salsa enabled build systems. Salsa, yeah, because or Salsa not enabled, Salsa certified build tools or build machines or build system will be good. Yeah, build systems.
Yeah, and the certified will also, we'd have to talk about the blog too. How do you get certified, right? There's a whole process that they're creating for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jamsi, since you remember the conversation better, do you think you can write a few words around this? Jamsi, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we can say like security approvals, manual security approval can be like, replaced with automated process of attestation or, yeah.
So I'm wondering if we should change this title. Well, should we change the title?
Yeah, I was thinking, I know I'm brand new here, but to me, this was like building more predictable change management activities. I think it might be maybe change management's too generic and not going to resonate with the development community, but building more predictable, continuous deployment. I think that touches on the general sentiment of this use case, and I think that feeds very well into the call to action on what's in it for me for the developer, because we talked about why would we want them to do something starting today, and then there has to be some form of motivation for them to want to do this, and the not being at work at night because they're tied to the continuous deployment activities or processes of today, but leveraging something like SLSA will build enough rigor into the work process that they don't need to be there right before production. I think I don't know the right way to say that, but that was just what I took from the last 10 minutes or so of dialogue. And I think if we put the ADKAR mindset on the what's in it for me for the developer, that would be a big one.
Okay. And I'm going to have to look at the recording to record every single word you just said, because I don't remember how. I'm really bad about that. That's why I'm a bad note taker. I can't write notes when I'm listening. It's really bad. So I'll have to go back to the recording to write what you said, because I really liked what you said. So if I knew I was going to like it, then I was going to write it down, but I didn't know what you were going to say. So I didn't know if it was something to add or if it was more of a general comment. So now I miss my opportunity.
And that's okay. I mean, I could also go into the document and put some of the comments on paper as a starting point, if that would be helpful.
Yes, definitely. Please do so. You should have access to edit or suggest this document. I think we opened it up so it wasn't just one person that could edit. Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad that this is resonating, because all I remembered was the staying late, but the other thing was about the debugging and root cause. If something fails, I think it was around the artifacts that get generated that could help with debugging and finding root cause of why something would have failed. Let's say it didn't pull from the right repo, as an example, or it didn't pull all the dependencies, or I don't know. I think that was another reason why someone said that this is really useful, is for troubleshooting if there is a failure of some sort. And whoever's writing, thank you. I appreciate it very much. And then SBOMs was something I know Bruno mentioned, right? A lot of people, when they think about SLSA, first thing they're gonna probably ask is, how does this help me with SBOMs, right? Because everybody's thinking about SBOMs, even though it's not one and the same. So this was, I don't remember where somebody mentioned this, right? It's an on-ramp to building a more secure software supply chain. And that's also one produces the SBOM, right? And then you can use that for any number of reasons. And SLSA level 2 would produce a signed SBOM, which prevents tampering of the artifact. I couldn't really come up with anything in terms of why a developer would care about that, right? I can't imagine a developer caring about that. I can imagine a product manager, yes, and potentially higher up like security. But beyond that, I really couldn't think of a good way to sell this piece. Folks on the phone?
Yeah, I mean, dare I say, I kind of think you hit
I
the
might
nail
have
on the
lost
head.
audio because I'm seeing. Hold on, give me
Can
one
you hear me?
second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Yep,
fine.
we can
You
hear
me?
you.
Yeah, I see the little microphones, but I'm not hearing anybody. So give me one second.
Mm.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
we
you hear me?
can.
Can you hear us?
Speaker. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can. Yeah, we can.
Okay, yeah, there's something wrong with this. If I sound really bad.
No, you sound fine. Still can't hear us, huh?
Yeah. No, I can hear you.
Oh, now you sound like you're in the distance.
Yeah. Here, let me see. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, so that's my webcam microphone. I basically stopped hearing you after I said, whoever's writing, thank you. So I don't know if people were talking or not after that.
Oh no! So actually, responding to what you were saying about the S-bomb stuff, I mean, I think you made the point with what you said. I don't know I don't know why a developer would care necessarily. I mean, I think from a build perspective, the S-bomb is important from a developer perspective. I don't know why a developer would care, you know, prior to an S-bomb being developed for the build itself. I don't know why a developer would care about that specifically.
Yeah, other way around, one more things to add. Maybe I'm not right here. So is it like, for example, GitLab or Cloud Build, when it's creating the provenance information, is like mandated to create the SBOM format? Because somewhere I remember it's mentioned SLSA format and SBOM format are two different formats. And currently, Cloud Build uses SLSA format, and GitLab or maybe some other tool uses SBOM format. So, are we specifying for SLSA level 1 the provenance information should be in SBOM format?
Well, isn't there a use case for SPDX or something like that?
Yes,
Why
something like that.
Yeah, there's
I'm not.
three formats. There's SPDX, CycloneDX, and Swig, but not many people are using Swig.
Right.
Most people are using either Cyclone or SPDX. But SLSA isn't really, it doesn't really care about how you create your SBOM necessarily. Right now, we don't have source defined, but doesn't care about how you generate that SBOM necessarily from the accuracy or the formatting. It's just saying your build is supposed to generate something.
Right.
Whether it's accurate or not is a different story. Right.
Yeah, right. So in that case, do we need to say would produce an SBOM artifact, or we will say provenance information that can help with understanding direct translation?
Can you repeat that last part, that last sentence?
So here in the sentence, we written SLSA element produce an SBOM artifact. So instead of SBOM artifact, can we replace that with provenance information?
So provenance, have we defined provenance, Jay, in SLSA? I think that was a big TBD.
Oh, okay.
Because
I was muted. That was one of the items of contention that we discovered early on, and whether or not that was actually a part of the if that was actually part of levels 1 and 2, and not well, and I'm not even sure if it was levels 1 and 2 or more about the build versus the source.
Correct. Yeah. So that was, yeah, I think there was a benefit, because some of these benefits for Jumpsy and Matt, I've copied them at the bottom. This was actually in SLSA documentation. Mm-hmm. And one of them mentions provenance at some level. I can't remember where. And we had a interesting conversation about that, because we weren't sure if it was for build or if it was for a source. Because we don't have source levels defined. But I don't know that we've defined provenance for build.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I would think it's the same, except that you insert build or source. And maybe the examples are different, right? But
can we say like integrity of the build? Because finally integrity of the build is verified through the provenance details, right?
That could be. But then how do you define integrity, right?
Yeah. So in other way around, like we have different mechanism for proving or for providing integrity to the build. So we can have different signing procedure. We can have different type of signers. So I should say would be like either provenance or integrity of the build. And how to ensure integrity is through the attestation and signing procedure, which can be done in different ways. So something like,
I think we say that, man, I think we're back to the question: what does that have to do with the developer? I mean, if we're talking about signing, that's a bit later, right? I mean, hell, especially if we're addressing vulnerabilities and all that kind of stuff, and you don't sign something unless you're good with the package, right? I mean, I dare I say that we're talking about levels 1 and 2. Dare I say that might be a level 3 item?
Yes.
Or for SBOM, a level 3 item?
Well, I'm saying for if we're talking about integrity, right? If we're talking about integrity,
got it.
And we're using signing as a mechanism for integrity, which will probably include some type of a hash, then we're kind of at the later stages of SLSA, not at the beginning of stages where developers are relevant.
Yeah. I want to make sure. I know we talked about integrity up here somewhere. Hold
on. I mean that unless we're making a reference towards iteration and then all that and release management. But then I think we might even be scope creeping on that one too. So I digress.
I can see in the SLSA specification itself mentioned something called recursive version control and hosted build services that generates authenticated provenance. So that terminology is already there in SLSA.dev.
Yeah, can you share the link? That might be for version .1.
Yeah.
This is it's .1. Sorry. Yeah.
So once again, right, you see that, and then if you go to the actual repo, and then you see what they're talking about for version 1, right? What prospective version 1, that was a discrepancy that we caught, where that was mentioned, and then it said, well, it's not mentioned here, but there's mentioned like 2 other places different, what's it going to be exactly? And then we saw the differences between source and build. The split off between source and build, and this was one of the things that spilled off between source and build.
Do you know an easy way of getting to that draft?
Oh hell.
Yeah,
I think I happened upon it by accident too. Like, right, I just sitting there looking and I'm like, oh wait, what's this? Oh.
Yeah, I think I said this. I thought I had it linked in here somewhere. So business levels.
Yeah, that this is build, and then it should talk about. So yeah, no, I think this is it. I think this is the one I found before. It says source track not yet defined. But then it talked about build, and see build one in Providence. Yeah. And this was the discrepancy between this and then what we saw on the other one. And like, well, what is it going to be exactly? Because this doesn't, because this references version 2, level 2 or level 3
I remember.
elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So build provenance is defined. So let's at least copy that down and put that in here in the comment. So build provenance. Now, in terms of SBOM and why a developer would care, I can only think about remediation and then streamlining this use case up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I don't know. I mean, everybody's asking for SBOMs, right? So it's like, you just got to get prepared for it. And if somebody asks you for an SBOM, you have to know what it is, right? But outside of that, I don't know how to sell it, right, to a developer themselves, right? Me as a security professional, right, that's all I'm talking about. But as a developer, they're like, what is this SBOM stuff everybody keeps talking about, right? Like, they don't really care. Only if you're higher up in terms of the like if you're a senior developer or, you know, you're overseeing a project, then you care. But, you know, a lower level developer does not care.
Yes, so somewhere further down the chain. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a broader challenge as well with the who cares part, because I guess like I said, I'm still really new in this space. I'm more of a security generalist, but it seems like the alignment to business value and getting agile teams working together with the same goal, there should be a focus on building the highest quality product that we can to support the business outcomes that we're all, you're getting paid to deliver, right? The reason that we all work for a company is to provide business value, and fully understanding to the best of our abilities the components that we use is part of the job, right? I think the stuff that we've already written down, or you've all written down around quality is spot on, because the analogy that I have in my head, and I'm not saying it's right, is if an automobile manufacturer picks a component company that has faulty equipment, the news is going to look at that automobile manufacturer, not the component company, when things go wrong. And the due diligence lies on that automobile manufacturer. And in the developer analogy, to me, that's the easiest way to resonate with the people that are putting together the applications or cars in this analogy. And I saw up above something about the ingredients, and I think that was really telling of making this relatable. But I totally understand. I appreciate what the comments that we've made about, you know, a junior developer may not instinctively jump up and down about SBOM, and that's a broader cultural component that we're up against as well.
Yeah, so
maybe we talk about that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, you know, and what you just said, and this is just making sure we level set the reader. Are we talking about? Are we talking making sure that we level set on whether we're talking about upstream versus downstream on this? Because if we're talking about downstream, well, then we're verifying. You know, we're verifying whatever signing mechanism or whatever hash came with the package that we're pulling down that's going to be used towards our downstream product or whatever it is that we're developing versus something that something that a developer might be building that's being sent upstream, right? That gets an SBOM later on. Or maybe, I mean, we need to make sure we preface this properly for the reader. I mean, I think
that's a good point.
Yeah, I thought the way it was explained, it sounded like it's like if we were to assume this is our build environment, this is our SBOM that we're producing, because it's also level 1. You say that you're going to produce an SBOM artifact, but that doesn't mean that the dependencies that you are using have an SBOM and are also level 1, right? So I think this is the perspective of a product or application that you are building as a developer, because then you have the control of creating an SBOM. But I get your point about the dependencies or the components that you are ingesting and trying to get those SBOMs. I don't think.
Well, yeah, because I mean, how do you verify the trust? How do you verify well, first of all, what is trust in your environment, right? What do you believe to be trustworthy, or what's a trustworthy process for you, right? You don't trust the product, trust the process. So you have a process that you deem to determine what something is trusted, what is trusted or what isn't. And should that include its own SBOM, right? So is there a verification? I mean, but once again, I think, dare I say that we might be scope creeping a little bit, going that far. I think if we should.
Oh,
that's a lot. That's a larger conversation.
Yeah, this part right here, part 2, source repos, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's where that trust conversation comes in.
Yes.
Trust of components.
Yeah, and I agree with Jay. We could write a whole blog about the accountability, because that's kind of what we talked about with the cultural aspect. And to me, trust of components is a risk management activity. And whether the components are internal or open source, there's certainly different degrees of trust, but at the end of the day, it comes down to risk management and accountability. If a component, it becomes a vulnerability or a risk, and that risk gets realized, where does the accountability lie when you work that backwards? If you think it through kind of from a threat modeling exercise. But again, that could be its own entity, probably its own blog.
Just a time check here. We got about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I think you're spot on about we need to clarify that this is SBOM for product application, right? And maybe in a future blog, we will cover the concept of trusted components, something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think in that we may have solved. Well, I say solve loosely, right? But we had a question before on what or how we could pitch this to a developer And I think through delineating one versus the other, that's how we do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the other thing, I like this because it still goes back to what was talked about up here, which I'm trying to remember her name, Michelle. Michelle wrote a lot of this. I think we can also, I feel like we can be honest with the readers and say, you know, as a junior developer, you may not care about SBOMs, right? You may not get excited, but this is why you should care. So maybe we have to call that out. It's like, yes, you may not care about it. You may get asked for one here and there. You may see one here and there, but this is ultimately why you should care about SBOMs. Potentially, that is something we still have to call out. Like, yes, it improves transparency, but oh, junior developer, you have to care too because of X, Y, Z, even though it's not exciting, right? But this is what we get paid to do.
Yeah, I will add one more point to that. Sorry, when we say the point shift left, so then developer needs to take care of that or to understand that as well. And we also need to consider a build system which is happening locally itself. So unlike unlike build orchestrators like Jenkins or GitLab or Cloud Build, if I'm doing a build in my local system could be able to create an SBOM format, and then with that, I can also deploy that artifact to cluster or the computing engine, whatever it may be. So in that aspect, I will say, like, developers should know it. In my previous experiences also as a developer, we were forced to do all the QA/QC checks in the development machine itself before we push the code to the central repositories. So in that aspect, I will say, like, now this is the time for even developers to look into the SBOM format, or just make sure that the build happening based on the specification itself.
So there was a lot of echo there, Jamsi. I think I caught most of what you said, but just FYI, I might have to listen to the record. Yeah, there's a big echo. But yeah, the shift left principle. I don't think I quite.
Is that fine now? Is that echo? Is it still echoing or? Hello. Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you better now. Yeah, no.
Okay,
no
I
echo.
remove the headset. Yeah, okay. So I was telling, like, developers should also take care of the information on about SBOM. So when, like, I was a developer, like, we were also forced to do all the QA/QC checks and vulnerability analysis and everything in the laptop itself, or not the development machine itself. So here I was thinking, like, the provenance information need to be considered only in the build orchestrators like Cloud Build or GitLab or such tools. But in a case where in the SLSA level 1 or level 2 phase, when people are building something from their own laptop, still the laptop can create an SBOM format output, which can be also used to deploy to securely deploy to a environment or to a cluster or to a computing engine, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so the shift left principle, and I copied your comment, Matt. I meant to put something about what's in it for me. It's okay. So we only have 1 minute left. So what I'm going to do here, call to action, I think. Okay, there's some stuff there. So we need to do fix up I think it's a debug troubleshooting and SLSA and SBOM part, right? I think the other part was okay, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
if you can all, if you can all take a look at this one. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Set up PR to release after 1.0 PR is done. I have the dependency to ensure we didn't miss or something wasn't dropped 1.0 spec. Okay, so yeah, if folks can take a look, and feel free, like I said, I'm not the only writer in here, there's multiple, and I'm also not the best writer in the world. So please feel free to add words. But I think we're very, very close to being done. It's just a little bit of tweaking here and there.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Well, thanks folks for joining. And for those that are celebrating, happy Gobble Day. Hope you enjoy lots and lots of turkey. If that's your thing. If that's not your thing, hope you enjoy something to eat, something yummy to eat. But hopefully I'll hear you and see you all next week.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.